Meeting the order. Standing up. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Or change or do anything to the agenda?
So Tess did have one additional request, and that was for action items. Consider replacing the number 2 boiler in the Justice Center. When we get there, I have the details on it, but it sounds like the total cost of replacement is $61,500. And that is an increase over last year's estimate. We can go
That'd be,
over the details when we
We'll
get
put it
to
on
that.
number 5.
that'd be number,
Yeah,
okay.
I think she sent us an email with that.
Yep.
Only other thing I'd like to change is to pull out number 3 of the consent agenda and put it on have a personnel meeting to review the job description.
Okay,
Remove it.
okay, we'll pull number 3 out of the consent agenda.
So question on that. As long as we
Well, we got,
approve that
Number 2.
interim.
well,
Another one.
that's on the action item and we can't discuss that one way or the other.
I'm just saying, as long as we don't want to leave ourselves short on that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I guess what's the committee want to look at? Any ideas, or is this just a review or what?
Just to review. There's another one we gotta do too, so.
So if we approve, if we keep number 2 on for the resignation, don't we usually follow with initiating the search?
Number 1 on the action item covers that temporarily.
And we're on that? Do we have a person to fill it in?
Okay, sounds good.
Remove.
Okay, everybody is okay with removing number 3 on the consent agenda. Motion to approve this with those changes.
With that, I make the motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? What a motion to approve the board minutes from June 14th.
So moved.
Second.
So the motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Approved work group session, June 21st. Motion to approve that
I'll make a motion to approve the work group.
Second.
and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment? Okay, guess there's none, so we'll move on. Appointments, we have a schedule for the end of the year meeting with department heads review and school session. Okay. So we'll just jump into the consent agenda right now.
Yeah.
Or should we?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
Let's
conduct
do
our
everything
other
and go back.
business and then we'll do the,
Two closed sessions
that,
after
that way the
Media.
media doesn't have to stick around.
All right. In favor of okaying the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as changed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any more discussion?
Want to thank Chris Hartley for his years of service for the county.
Yeah. So big loss.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda approved. Action items. Approving the agreement between the Houston County of Houston and the Internal Union of Operators Engineers Local Number 49. The MOA provides for a temporary workout of class assignments during the search for a highway maintenance foreman. Tess.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
Subsequent to the resignation of our highway maintenance foreman, we are looking at putting in David Bauer and a work out of class. The 49ers collective bargaining agreement doesn't provide for temporary assignments, interim assignments, if you will, so for work out of class. So the MOA that you have before you represents our agreement to this temporary position. What you notice in the, it has an end date of subsequent to a competitive search or 6 months, whichever occurs earlier. And it also includes that Mr. Bauer would be provided the benefit of his step that he would get on July 1 upon his return to his regular classification.
So he's moving up to Chris's pay scale for 6 months until
Pardon me?
he's gonna be moving up to Chris Hartley's pay scale, you see?
To that band classification. Yes, sir.
And this is for up to 6 months.
Whichever occurs, if we have a replacement prior to that.
It goes past 6 months.
We're
till we
done.
Get somebody hired, it stays the same, correct?
Or we'll have to renew it.
Or
There'll
we-
be new renewal.
I would bring it back to the board for reconsideration as well as to the unit.
A no-brainer. We need the guys. So
Yep. I make a motion, we approve. Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
You start.
You started first.
I'll make a motion to approve action item number 1, approving the MOA with the local 49ers for a temporary workout of class assignment for Mr. Bauer.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to okay the agreement.
I have just one quick question. You know, it says memo of agreement. What's the difference between agreement and understanding? I mean, it used to be the MOUs and all this kind of stuff. It's just, when I saw that, I thought maybe.
There,
whatever.
it is a gray fuzzy line.
Okay.
The understanding might be the interpretation of the underlying agreement as to how it will be applied moving forward. This is more like an addendum, if you will.
More precise, perhaps, then, okay, thank you. I was just. Questions, thank you.
You're welcome.
All
They
in
are,
favor? Oops.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say, a lot of people use them interchangeably, however, that is the distinction.
Thank you.
Well, when I saw the name, I couldn't figure out who that was because I know him as somebody else. but Can't,
Anyway.
we figured it out.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Consider approving an agreement between the county and the city of McPresent to outline respectable responsibilities regarding the use of funding for projects SAP 028-600-001 for reconstructing an existing roadway and construct a curb along the north edge of the road, providing a buffer between the road and the wagon wheel trail. This agreement will secure funding for $128,005.83 for the present projects.
Yes, so City of La Crescent has applied for State Park Road account funding and was approved for that funding. As part of that funding source is that this is actually a county state aid funding account that cities are eligible to apply for. So it's actually the same funding as what we got for our county state aid highway 1 going into Beaver Creek State Park. So it's funding geared toward access to state and federal parks, parks and waterways and that type of stuff. But because even though the city of La Crescent is a state aid city, because this funding is technically comes through the county system or county funding source, the city cannot receive the funding directly themselves. We need to have an agreement for the county to essentially manage the funding and to have some oversight of the project. So what the funding, this agreement does, we took it from various agreements used in other counties. And essentially the county is responsible for reviewing the plans, the cost estimate, getting that sent on to MnDOT state aid for their review and approval. County will need to be involved with overseeing all the pay requests, submitting for payment and that reimbursement back. And then, getting that funding transferred back and forth between us and the city. So that is essentially the county's full involvement. The city has hired an engineer to design the project, to inspect the project, to essentially do everything else associated with the project. So overall, this would fund a little over half of the access to the boat landing in that area for that portion of the project.
It's curb and gutter, basically.
It's gonna have, they're gonna redo about 800 feet from Monte Carlo Road into the boat ramp area, so it's not the entire length going in. They're gonna have curb and gutter on the north side of the roadway, have a 22-foot wide asphalt pavement surface, and then no gutter on the south side of the road. And then they're gonna be doing Monte Carlo Road along that same project under a different funding source. There'll be city funds for that. So kind of two projects combined into one.
So this starts at the highway and runs in.
Yep, so it'll start at Trunk Highway 1461 for the full length Monte Carlo Road, which is about 670 feet to Shore Acres Drive. And then it'll be the boat landing area, just that first.
That west channel
800, yep, that's.
by the
access.
bridge there.
Yes, yep, the access to the west channel. So not all the way down to the parking area, just that entrance drive. That's the concrete that's in really poor shape.
So it's gonna have a 22-foot roadway, the curb, and then a bicycle surface on the other side
So
of
we
it.
get ways, yeah,
Path.
bike path on the north side of the inner landing road.
That concrete's almost 100 years old. It's from the original Highway 61.
It'd be a great place for the highway patrol or the city of La Crescent to sit and watch for cars. That's where I got my worst. So. Not too fast. How much liability does the county incur by taking this on?
I guess that's a question for Attorney Yount. But the Sammy, she tells me that there's always a risk when we're involved with the project of a lawsuit. They'll sue the county and the city if there's any issues in this case. Overall, it's a pretty simple, straightforward project. The city is, doing all the design. I have reviewed some, the plans, some here and stuff on the behalf of the city as what's going to be required with this agreement. But ultimately, the city's signing off with their engineer on the design. They're doing inspection, so we do have minimal involvement other than securing that funding.
So we're basically the flow through to get this project done.
Primarily, we're the fiscal agent on this one. We'll submit all the pay requests come through us. We'll review the inspection documentation that the consultant provides to us saying, what the payment should be. We'll see if that's accurate. I'll run out there and take a look to see if that's what we should be paying at that time, issue the payment. But it's all gonna be, the city's gonna give us the information first. We review.
And reimbursement where we don't get reimbursed for our.
There is no.
It's our expense
There's no administration.
to be the
fee.
fiscal agent.
Correct, yeah, there's no, and this is kind of what all the other counties do, and the city can't get this funding without us. So it's a benefit to the city of the counties.
Or being that they're gonna design it, they're gonna build it, they're gonna engineer it and all that, and we're just assisting to make sure that it can get done. I move that we approve this agreement.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve this agreement. Any more discussion?
The only thing I look at is that although we're the pass-through agent,
We're gonna be reliable.
you still have to inspect the plans, you have to inspect the project as it goes through, and you make the approval of the payments. So there is some liability for the county here if the road goes completely to heck in the end and it hasn't been done quite to plan. We could get named in suit of some sort, but
That was a possibility.
pretty minimal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If the road falls apart, I mean, it is 100% full. The city is telling us what they want to have in there for that cross section.
City
not
township,
providing
it
any-
doesn't matter if it goes to pot. Who's got the deepest pockets?
I'm not providing any
We'll be a
input into
party
that
in the lawsuit,
design.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Anything we do, we can be a party of.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I won't provide any assistance as far as that design section, as far as thickness or width. I'm just looking to see, does it meet the minimum standards for this funding source? If it does, why is what they're required to do?
It's their engineer, so,
Okay.
and it's their plans. You're just making sure it's meets the standards.
Second set of eyes type.
There should be an administration fee. There's some.
Well, that's what I was thinking too, but obviously that's not the
That's not the
case.
case, yeah, right.
Okay,
That's it.
any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. Consider approving the gambling permit on behalf of Sheldon Valley Sportsmen's Association to be held at the Sheldon Valley Sportsman Association Range 1151 County Road 10, Caledonia, Minnesota, on October 30th, 2022. Donna.
Yep, good morning, commissioners. You just said it, you said it all there, Greg. It is for Sportsman's Valley Association, our Sheldon Valley Sportsman's Association, and that is correct. It's to be held on October 30th. And the address is 11511 County Road 10, Caledonia. So basically, they're just applying for a one-time permit, and they would like this approved.
We've done this before, so
Yeah, they've done this before.
yeah, I move that we approve the permit.
Been a motion to approve the permit.
Second.
Second.
Is this a one-day shot? Apparently it's just a one day
I guess.
ticket sold beforehand.
Yep, that's correct. One-day shot.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, consider approving approval of a gambling permit on behalf of Able Foundation Incorporated to be held at the La Crescent Snowmobile Club, 2485 County Road 6, La Crescent, Minnesota, on October 15th, 2022. You're up again, Donna.
Okay, and again, this is, they've done this before, last year, I believe, so it's pretty much the same thing. It's a one-year thing, or a one-time shot, each year. And again, it's held on October 15th of 2022.
Move to approve.
I'll second it. Been a motion and a second to approve this gambling permit for Able. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number
Thank you.
5.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Don.
Number 5, we gotta replace the boiler over here at the JC Center. Paid 51,000 last one, now they're 61,000. We got much choice. Unless you can find a different boiler someplace else cheaper.
Well, they're specifically piped for the particular boiler system. As you as you correctly recited, we did replace one of the units last year for 51.5. This year, the quote we have is 61.5. It has a 10 to 12 week lead on it. There aren't, in my opinion anyway, I highly recommend that we replace it. There really isn't much of an option not to. It's a 24/7 facility. The boilers are integrated into the HVAC system, so it's not like you just wait for the boilers to kick on in October, you know, under an old style system. It will include all the updates to the control panels, et cetera. So Winona Controls would be doing the install on it. Both of the units would then interact with each other as far as being able to switch off and on and alternate.
Questions?
So being 61.5, did we get a second quote from anybody? Or just because they're familiar?
It's not just because they're familiar, it's because this particular system, we already have one in place with all the piping there for that, so we need to.
Same kind of equipment.
And as these systems are connected to control panels that both Winona Controls monitors, as well as our own maintenance team monitors while off-site. They get the warnings when things go down. It's all one integrated system, so we're going with the same product. It does come with a 10-year warranty. I know 10 years doesn't sound like a lot to some folks, but when you operate a system 24/7, that's a lot of wear and tear over that 10-year period, more than just 10 calendar years from an 8 to 5 operation.
Well, given the state of the economy we're in now with inflation, $10,000 more is about 17%, which is probably in the ballpark of what things are doing. So, and I understand too, it was figured out that when these first were new, they weren't being operated correctly. And now we've got it figured out and how they are supposed to work to give longevity to it.
Yeah, they weren't being operated at optimum conditions.
Right.
Um,
They were kicking on and off all the time or something to the fact. I
Some
just
of the stuff,
remember.
I know that I'm certainly not an expert in the mechanicals on this, so to talk to it intelligently, I'd have to bring someone else in here. But I know there were a lot of issues with set points and things like
Yeah.
that. And so there was a lot of keeping in. There was some, if I'm not mistaken, there may have been some velocity issues with regards to the flow in the pipes.
Yeah, I
There was a
remember
lot.
talking to Adam.
There
about
was
that.
pipes. And that previous, it's also my understanding these are higher quality than that, the previous system. The previous ones are no longer made. That's why we can't even get parts for these machines right now. We did last year scrap parts as much as we could so that we could salvage them, I should say, not scrap them, so that if we had to, while we're waiting, we can kind of patch things together on this one, but that's, the heat exchanger is shot, it's gone.
So you said the lead time is what?
I understand from Winona Controls 10 to 12 weeks.
Before we get it.
Boiler time.
Getting close.
Well, we better get her done. So I make a motion, we approve the purchase of the boiler.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the boiler. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
I work with finance to make sure that it goes smoothly.
Thank you. Board updates, board chairman.
Tell you, Austin, Bruce, I went to your solid waste thing over there at Stony Creek.
I was wondering if you did.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
We're doing very well over there right now.
Yes, Yes.
Good deal for everybody. Even kind of a little praises Martin for setting up some program for him that's really working good.
Good.
A little bit that day, so that was okay. Outside of that, we had a finance meeting this morning. We talked on that a little bit. Didn't do any of the board, the zoning last week because there was no cups. It was all board of adjustments. Surprised they're not here with some permits assigned today, but maybe next week. Outside of that, I don't have much. I guess. Start, Teresa.
I don't have anything.
Coming back from vacation, you're still getting your legs back.
Resting, that's quite a.
I'm caught up
You might want to
now,
go on vacation again.
Yeah, no kidding.
but I probably didn't answer phone calls real well. And one night I was in bed at 7.
Yeah, getting used to it.
Yeah,
Jet lag.
I'm back to work.
I guess, Bob, you're next.
Okay, last week we had a shortened CJCC meeting. Just a couple of things that we talked about there, just internal management, so it's nothing really to report on, it's no changes. Yesterday, we had the department head meeting, Dewey and I. And everybody except Mark, the sheriff, was there. Carol talked about the audit is ongoing and starting to work on the budget. Everybody talked about budget a little bit, and he talked about the software that we're looking at and upcoming new equipment, as well as finding a new employee. Mary talked about recorder's office. It's slowed down a little bit. They're still dealing with sales, but mortgages, the change in mortgage rates has slowed down some of their operation. Talked about the assessor's office. They've done 1,600 of the quintile so far, and they're moving along fairly well with that. Robert Thion from Veteran Services talked about the veteran bonuses from the state of Minnesota for those employees. It goes live on July 7th. Veterans who were Minnesota residents and are still Minnesota residents. Martin talked about the variances, some of the variances that they had talked about, but didn't get into specifics. They are looking at their budget and new gates for the Spring Grove and the La Crescent facilities. Their fuel budget is out of whack as far as what they had budgeted
Everybody's
versus
department's
every
budget's
department is at,
up.
yeah.
Everyone.
John talked a lot about the public health. They've got the new hire. Has been very helpful while we've been shorthanded. And their public health supervisor advertising has been extended, and it's open-ended until it's filled. Eric talked about working with the new equipment that they got through the ARPA funding, and that's worked pretty well. Has talked about quite a bit with regard to RFQs. We're coming down. We're gonna get it.
Sorry.
So that was
That's
some of
my
the
county
things.
phone.
Oh, really? Space mode. So that was basically, I guess, if there's anything else you could cover on that.
About the restroom, Tess
Yeah.
mentioned that door was on order.
The door is coming.
Yeah.
I've been attending the election judge training the last couple of times. I went to all of them. Quite extensive. There's a lot to it. As far as the election judges are concerned, pretty well attended. 75 per meeting on the last two. But interesting, I've learned a lot about how the election process works and what you got to do and can't do. So I think it was good for me just to attend, just to hear. I've got an upcoming meeting with MCIT next week for property protection and what MCIT expects the county to do. So I'll be attending that next week. All I have to report.
Did you go out to the flying breakfast?
I did not. I didn't realize that it was then.
I thought it was next week, and I missed it too.
It wasn't advertised very well. I didn't think.
The what?
That flying breakfast out at the airport. on
Oh,
Sunday. Said they had a huge turnout.
I talked to somebody that worked it and said it was a small turnout,
Okay.
150 people or less.
It might have been huge to somebody though.
Yeah, 150 people isn't bad considering it wasn't advertised very well, so. Anyways, that's all I got.
All right. We'll move on now to you, Eric.
yesterday I went to the Root River Watershed. One watershed, one plan meeting in Preston. Just to highlight some of the things they talked about, the Fillmore County Sheriff and Emergency Management Team was there to talk about their protocols for flood events in their county and what they do and how they communicate, the communications. They use all forms of communications and they communicate with other counties as well, so. And we had some reports from well, we didn't have a report on policy committee members. They didn't have nothing to report. There's the Prairie Strip program in Mower County, is it? It's not Mower. And it's gone real well. I've gotten quite a few people that want to apply for that and get into that. It's an $80 an acre incentive on top of the CRP payment, so. And, but they wanted to extend that from 10 years to 15 and possibly and up to 10 acres before is the max. You can go more than that, but they're only paying the incentive for 10, up to 10. And then there was discussion by all of us to open that up to other counties. And so it's going to be offered other county, other soil districts as well, so. And they had some soil health event in Spring Valley. They talked about that, and did a little report on that. Dave talked about the Friends of River Science on they had down at Hoka, talked about that meeting. So.
And that go pretty well.
Yeah, it wasn't attended real well, but it was a good meeting and, you know, the people that were there were of interest to, you know, and it's on that farm that along 26 that the Fish and Wildlife bought, and they've done some improvements to it. And planted some native grasses and took out some dikes and ditches to make it more even as far as a flood control thing, so. That's on the other side of 26, east of 26 there.
Along the track, east side of the tracks.
Yeah. There was a discussion on our 5-year plan assessment where we're approaching the 5-year midpoint for the 10-year plan. And we advised them to the soil and water districts to come up with a overview or a review of what they've done and seen what works and what doesn't, and come back to us with a report here next year in January or so. Put a date of September for the next meeting, just to have a preview, and then the final review of in January's meeting. So our next meeting is September, end of September, so. And I guess that's all I got that I can remember.
I guess Bob hit pretty much on the personnel or department heads from yesterday. From the finance this morning, Carol reiterated getting claims in on a timely manner so that they can be posted properly, and the audit is ongoing. Election training, as Bob mentioned, is going on. So other than that, pretty quiet up in the Northeast there. The city only had a 30-minute meeting last night themselves, so it's but there's going to be some changes there. Well, I think I mentioned last week about Walnut and Main Street, that fiasco.
Are they
But,
getting a lot of comments?
yes, and they're not good.
It's terrible. I did go check it out right after. the
No,
last
it's-
week.
So did we.
like I told him, I said, that must be the worst case scenario so that you can tell us how good it's gonna be in the future, because it can't get any worse than what it is now.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe they
Yeah,
would try
so-
something like that. Theirs is
You
the
can't get
best.
a truck around it.
Can't get a pickup around it,
No.
much less, but anyway, that's the highlights of that area. So, pretty quiet.
All right. Well, any more public comment? So we should be okay there. Well, do we adjourn this one and then go into our closed session, or how do we do this?
No, we can't adjourn, but I just want to question on finance. So are we in line with the budgets?
Everything's pretty close except for our fuel.
The fuel part's gonna throw us off.
And then we got a union.
We'll have to be- I guess like I discussed too, there have been years where we budgeted for higher fuel prices and we haven't.
Done
ended
that?
up Having that happen, so at the end of the year, it increased our fund balance and cash balances because we didn't actually use it. So it's not like it's going to break us because we have this situation this year, but it will affect budgeting for next year.
Up there to absorb this year's. Next year.
Okay. Well, I make a motion, we go into closed session, pursuant of Minnesota statute 13D 105 subdivision 3 to evaluate performance of an individual is subject to its authority.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to go into closed doors. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. So we're change out here to closed session.
And then I think you have to provide a brief summary, so you can just say the candidates, right?
We reviewed,
name the
we reviewed their self-evaluations, reviewed their job descriptions, and we discussed their job performance.
Do we have to just do, we don't need.
We don't
to
need to
name
give scores.
Or names, I mean.
No, we don't
Nope.
give specifics, but I think
Just
we have to put a
what we did.
general summary.
Yep.
minutes.
That's about it.
So someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Just wait, I wanted to ask a question.
Sure.
With regard to the land stewardship program, I keep getting stuff from them. Is anybody
get
involved
any.
with that?
I don't get any.
I don't either.
I used
Must
to,
be
and
on
I
their
don't.
email
anymore.
list, huh?
I am,
I
Yeah,
used to
you're on
be
somebody's
during our
list.
work Sundays.
but
I don't anymore.
so I don't have to, I can do that.
Just go do that.
What are they asking?
Well, they're just telling me about different meetings, different topics, different programs that they're having and whatnot to come and participate. Okay, I think I should just see what they have to say. But I didn't know if anybody was involved.
You know,
The EDA does get updates from them sometimes, and sometimes we meet with them. Just to know, but you're welcome to see what they have to say too.
That was, I just wanted to ask about. that from you guys.
No, I used to for the first couple of months, and then for some reason I don't know, I kept deleting it because I didn't know anything about it, to be honest with you.
Well, I haven't been responding to anything, but I get from various people about meetings here and there and everywhere. So, okay, thank you.
You're shared on with from other people.
Apparently. Like Facebook almost.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Adjourn. Thank you, everybody.